Okay, good afternoon and welcome to the City of Belleville Committee of Adjustment meeting for Thursday, August the 19th. My name is Brian Miller and I will be chairing the meeting today. Our first item is disclosure of pecuniary interest by anyone regarding any of the items today. Glenn?
Yeah, I need to declare a conflict on B1521.
Okay. And Carol, did you have something?
Yeah, I want B15 and B1621.
B15 and 16. Okay, Carol. All right, any others? All righty, if not, then we will proceed with the first application. It's for a minor variance, A2721, 224 College Street East, and the owner is Jeff Root. So Andrew, you can tell us what that's all about, please.
Surely. So application A2721 has been submitted for 224 College Street East. The subject land is zoned R2 and is developed with a single detached dwelling. There was a garage on the property, which is the middlemost building hatched out in the middle of that drawing, but it has since been demolished. The applicant proposes to construct a garage and a shed, but the garage will be taller than, the relief has been requested to construct the garage to be taller, as well as increase the amount of available lot coverage for both accessory buildings. Back to you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so the roof is going from, or the height is going from 4.5 to 6.1. And the coverage is going from 10 to 13%. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions? Is there anyone from the public that wishes to comment on this, Mark?
My sheet says Jeff Root, but I do not see him as an attendee.
Okay. Any questions, concerns, comments? If that's a no, then we'll have a motion from Carol, seconded by Glenn. All in favor? Carried, thank you. Okay, our next application, minor variance, A2821, 119 Wright Avenue in the city of Belleville, and the owner is Sarah Backus. And Andrew, again?
Of course. So a minor variance has been applied for 119 Wright Avenue. The subject land is zoned R1 and is developed with a single detached dwelling. The application proposes to construct an enclosed entryway with a proposed setback of 4.27 meters. Being enclosed considers it a part of the main building, and so the reduction will be from 7.5 meters. I think we have received a letter, but in no objection to the application. Back to you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Is Sarah with us today? Mark? Mark, is Sarah with us?
Yes, she's joining the meeting, President.
Okay,
Sorry, yes, I'm here.
okay. So we have all the comments here about what you're proposing to do. Do you have any additional comments to make?
No,
No,
just
you're
that it's
building an entranceway on the front, correct?
on the front of the building, yes.
Okay, that's correct. Okay. Was there anybody else in the public that wishes to comment, Mark?
No, I don't have anyone for that application, just Sarah.
Okay, thank you. So any questions for Sarah? Take that as a no then. Okay, thank you, Sarah. Glenn?
I'll move that we approve.
And seconded by Robert. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
Okay, our next application is for consent and it's at 784 Bell Boulevard. The owner is Pardeep Bhopal and the agent is Jennifer Matthews of Watson Land Surveyors. So Andrew?
Surely, a consent application has been submitted for a property on Bell Boulevard. It is on the northwest corner of Hannafin and Bell Boulevard. The consent application proposes to sever a portion off, which has been highlighted in pink there. And that's kind of the extent of my notes. Back to you.
Okay, thank you. Is the owner with us today, Mark?
I don't see Pardeep, and Jennifer is here, so I will add her to the meeting.
Hi, I'm Jennifer from Watson Land Surveyors. I'm just here as the agent for the applicant. I do have one question about the conditions. I just want to confirm that the 1 foot reserve being lifted at the time of development, that's nothing to do with the severance, correct? That will only come into play when they apply for a building permit to develop the parcel?
Greg can maybe answer that, or Andrew?
Yeah, through the chair, that's correct. The 1 foot reserve is in place now for the Bell Boulevard servicing agreement for cost recovery, and it does allow for severances to occur while the reserve remains in place. So severing the property would not affect that. It would still be something that would have to be dealt with at the time of development.
Okay, I just wanted to confirm that. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else in the public to comment on this, Mark?
No, that's everybody I have.
Okay, any questions for Jennifer? So we have a large piece of property here that we're just severing off into approximately 2.5 acres each one. Okay, if no further comment, then a motion by Bill, seconded by Robert. All in favor? Thank you. Okay, our next application for consent, B 1421, 235 Harmony Road in Corbyville, and the owner is Frank DeHaan. And Andrew?
Certainly. Severance application has been submitted for 435 Harmony Road. The subject lands is zoned PA, rural, and hazard, and is currently developed with a single detached dwelling, which has been indicated on the drawing there. The application requests to create one residential lot, which is west of the existing dwelling. The rezoning of both parcels has been indicated as a condition of consent. I was taking a closer look, and there may need to be some side yard relief for the existing dwelling, but that would be handled during the respective rezoning.
Okay.
Back to you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Is Mr. DeHaan with us? Mark?
He'll be joining shortly.
If I may, I think Sue was dropped from the panelists.
Yes, I didn't see her there. I wonder what happened to her. Frank, you with us?
Unmute. There's Susan.
Susan's on mute, but yes. Okay, is Frank on
Thank
mute
you.
too?
Hello? Hello?
Frank, you with us?
Yep,
Hello?
yep, we can hear you.
We can
Okay,
hear
thank you.
Okay, so you're severing part of the property off there on Harmony Road. And so do you have any other questions, comments, concerns?
No, sir, no.
Okay, does anyone have any questions, comments, concerns for Mr. DeHaan?
Andrew,
Andrew?
Not specifically to the owner. A hydrogeological study regarding water quality and quantity has been added as a condition of consent based off of the guidelines we've received from the conservation.
Okay.
Just letting you guys be aware of that.
Okay. So you have no more comments, Mr. DeHaan?
No, sir.
Is there anyone else, Mark, that wishes to comment?
There is not.
Okay, that's good then. So if there's no further comments, Carol, you're moving?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. And Sue Smith there, seconded. All in favor? Done, thank you. Okay, our next application is B 1521 400 Bell Boulevard. The owners are Williams Hotel and the agent is Spencer Hutchison, and Glenn and Carol have a conflict on this, so Andrew?
Take it away.
Yeah.
A severance application has been submitted for 400 Bell Boulevard. The subject lands is a highway, commercial, and special industrial zone and is developed with a hotel near the front of the property. The application requests to sever the existing hotel onto its own parcel, and the remaining lands would be accessible through an easement for access and servicing, but would have a 0.3 meter reserve along the easement until that road is properly established towards it. Back to you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Is Mr. Hutchinson with us today?
He is. He'll be joining shortly.
Spencer, there you are.
Good afternoon, Mr. Miller and members of the Committee of Adjustment. You have Andrew's report and his introduction. I don't think at this point I'll add anything more to what's been requested, but happy to answer any questions or clarification that anyone may have. Thank you.
Do you have any questions or comments for Spencer? So it's basically just some excess land to the north there, and they're just severing it off so it can be used for something else, correct?
Yes, you and I were involved when Mr. Williams Sr. severed off the land from Gen Lands to create the hotel, and he got enough land to do future projects to the north. In the meantime, moving forward, the hotel is going to be sold, but the family wants to retain the vacant land, and in conjunction with property beside it, come to a new plan. So it's just to get off the hotel so it can be sold.
Okay. Any further questions, comments, concerns? If not, then motion by Sue, seconded by Robert, and all in favor? Carried, thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thanks, Spencer. Okay, our next application is for consent, and it's B1621 149 Deniers Road. The owner is Marcus Sullivan. And Andrew, you can give us an update on that.
Sure. A consent application has been submitted for 149 Deniers Road. The subject land is zoned prime agricultural, rural, and hazard, and is currently developed with a single detached dwelling along Deniers. The application requests to create one new residential lot along Highway 37, which is the south side of the property, and a rezoning of both parcels has been included as a condition of consent. Additionally, this property also triggered the requirement for a hydrogeological study for water quality and quantity, as outlined by the Quincy Conservation. Back to you.
A question for Andrew, because this is on Highway 37, does MTO have to approve the access on that?
Yes, they were involved in the consultation phase. They originally proposed 2 lots, but as they've indicated in their correspondence, they will still need an entrance permit. Mm-hmm. My assumption is that the two entrances was not viable under their requirements, so that's why there's only one.
Okay. Is Marcus with us?
Marcus is not, but Jennifer has been added to the meeting as the representative.
Okay.
I do have a couple questions about the hydrogeological study and what triggered that. I understand that that's a recommendation that's come forward from Quincy Conservation. Our client was a little bit surprised. We didn't have the information on that until the agenda meeting, or the reports for the agenda came out. So it's something that's kind of come up at the last minute. It wasn't mentioned during any pre-consultations. So our client would like a little bit more information on why that was asked for, maybe by Quincy Conservation, and would like to ask if it's a possibility to have it removed as a condition.
Okay, Greg or Andrew, can you explain what that it's all about? Greg?
Sure, yeah, I wasn't sure if Andrew wanted to.
I have their email from about it from the Sunningdale severance. But if Greg, do you want to explain some of the situation first?
Sure, yeah. I can certainly advise. I know with the Conservation Authority and their drought management plan that they've been working on, part of that work has been coming up with policies in terms of when it's appropriate to request hydrogeological assessment versus when it's not necessary. And so that is stuff that has been coming online and making its way into their comments, I guess, over the last couple of months, really. It's something where they apply a standard and they look at properties within 300 meters of a proposed severance, and they determine whether within a 10-acre block surrounding that, whether there would be 5 or more residential dwellings within that distance. And so based on their drought study, they'd come up with this criteria to recommend those studies at that point. And so as the city, we're trying to also move in that direction as well, because I know in the past, hydro-G studies were something that would come up if neighbors brought up a concern about it, but not necessarily on a consistent basis. So this provides for a more consistent review and application of criteria. Also, I believe it is something, because conservation is making those comments, it's likely that it would also be required as a condition of rezoning.
Is this to do with water source? Is that what it is? The supply of water, basically?
That's correct, yeah.
There's
Quality
usually
and
sufficient water to supply to this dwelling or ones within that area that you referred to. Okay. Jennifer, any questions, more questions, comments?
Yeah, I guess our client wants us to inquire if that condition can be removed. The closest house to the west is about 1,400 meters, and to the east, it's about 200 meters. There's a couple across the road in the Bay Street subdivision that's in there. I think my recollection is that's about 25 years old, that subdivision. So I think if the criteria is 5 lots within 4 hectares, which is 10 acres, our severance alone is over half that area. So there's not going to be a house on the east or west on that side of Highway 37 because it's agricultural land.
Okay. Glenn, did you have a question, comment?
Well, Mr. Chair, I have a comment here, and that is, it would appear to me that, well, I guess my first question is not, if it's going to be on a well, is there not a requirement already in terms of flow that's required for the well as the quality of water in order for there to be any approved development there? That's my first question. And then secondly, if Quinte Conservation said that they had no objections to it, so I'm curious, did this come up in a document, or am I missing something here? Have I missed something in terms of where this condition has been added in the documentation that we have, or am I just not reading it properly?
Andrew, do you have a comment?
There's several questions here. I'll try to address one of them. The hydrogeologist from the conservation had provided us a guideline of check of properties within 300 meters of the property, or at least the proposed severance, and count the number of lots under 4 hectares or have dwellings on it.
So through the chair to Andrew, but if what came from Quinte Conservation says we have no objections to this application, I'm curious, those two things seem to be in conflict.
Andrew, do you have,
Right.
do you have a comment on that, Andrew or Greg?
Greg, could you clarify this about it?
Yeah, sorry, I'm just looking for this page in the agenda package here.
I think it's page 80 of 92. It's in the hydrological review from the Quinte Conservation comments. I actually did speak with Mark Boone at Quinte Conservation this morning, and he led me to believe that the reason it's in there is because it's in the city's official plan to ask for that if it's in the criteria for area. So we're just a little bit confused. It's kind of an expensive study to add at the last minute. And if the condition can't be removed, then our client would like to ask for a deferral till they can get a little bit more information, and they may not be going forward with the severance.
Through the chair, and again, this is what's confusing to me, which is I can appreciate that there are rules that city staff have to follow in terms of doing things, but if we're asking Quinte Conservation to make evaluations and to do these things, and they know what those laws and those rules are, I guess I kind of side with the applicant on this one, in that this is kind of a curveball being thrown at the last minute, and again, it doesn't make an awful lot of sense to me. I see some red tape creep here, it's a little overreach and maybe a little overkill. And while I do believe that source water protection is an important issue, I think that we have to also be reasonable in terms of what conditions are placed there. And so I too am confused with this. I just don't understand that condition and why it's there.
Greg?
Yeah. I mean, through the chair to Mr. Anderson, I think it's something that it may not have been discussed at the pre-consultation meeting, and that is owing to the fact that with the recentness of the drought plan and its recommendations coming forward, it may be something where it wasn't quite there when we did the pre-consultation, and we are adopting this going forward. And I mean, it's certainly at the committee's discretion, whether they want to impose that condition or not. So I mean, yeah, and I certainly see where you're coming from on that, because it may not have been something that was put out at the outset. I guess the difference between a standard well condition is that a well gets drilled, that it has no bacteriological problems, and then it meets a certain flow test, where a hydrogeological assessment is going to look more at the time of year and the water table and how it may or may not affect surrounding properties. So I mean, it is a more in-depth study for sure.
So, Mr. Chair, I guess my point is, and again, just to kind of, along the lines of what Mr. Pynchon was talking about there, if this applicant if this kind of happened midstream, and this is one of those blindside last minute things, I hardly think it's fair to impose that condition at the last minute to someone who was already 9/10 of the way through the process. So
Can't hear you,
I
guys.
would certainly make a motion to approve this with the removal of that hydrogeological condition. Otherwise, I understand that the applicant may want to. Can you guys hear me? Sorry.
No, you're cutting in and out. Okay.
Okay. Sorry about that. I would be willing to put forward a motion that we approve with the removal of that hydrogeological study. Otherwise, I think we've heard quite clearly that the applicant is going to withdraw their application. And again, I guess just from a fairness perspective, that's the only thing that bothers me. So I will put that motion on the floor.
Do we have a second? We have a seconder for his motion.
Yeah, I do.
Robert, you were seconding that?
Yep.
Any other questions, comments, Bill?
Yeah, thank you. Through the chair. So I understand that, the flux has created a bit of a problem, but I think that Jennifer made a valid comment. She didn't say that the applicant was going to withdraw the application. What she said was that they were going to review, if we deferred it, they would take that opportunity to review it And if in fact it couldn't be resolved to their satisfaction, then they might abandon the severance. So I think, I recognize there's a motion on the floor, but I think it would be more prudent to defer the decision until such time as both parties are able to do a little bit more work on this, given that it is a surprise to the applicant. And it doesn't appear, unless Jennifer states otherwise, that it's time sensitive. So those would be my comments.
Any other comments? I tend to agree with Glenn.
Andrew there.
Okay, Andrew.
I was speaking with the manager of policy planning, and I know that this discussion is happening, but it may become a required part of the rezoning application. So if it's not a condition, the policy planning department may still require it.
Now that's
so perhaps deferral is, this is a little outside my experience, but Greg, with perhaps clarification from policy planning regarding that, be more apt of a decision rather than to remove it entirely. I don't know what's the best thing to do here.
Jennifer, do you have any comments?
To me, it sounds like there's a little bit of confusion, to be honest, about this condition and why it's on there. And I mean, I think we know how it got on there. It's because of a recommendation of Quinte Conservation, but I think it might be best to ask for a deferral at this time until we can gather more information, because if the study is going to be in fact required, then our clients would like to investigate it. I've seen hydrogeological studies around the $3,000 mark, and I've seen them up over $10,000. So if that's the case, I can kind of confirm for Mr. Sanderson, if that's the case, that it's around a $10,000 study, then the application will be withdrawn.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
I'm willing to withdraw my motion if the committee so desires. I support what Councillor Sanderson is saying in terms of a deferral so that we can have more information. So I'm going to withdraw my motion from the floor.
Okay. And Robert, you're
I'll withdraw the second.
okay. Now, so are you, Glenn, then making a motion to defer it, or?
Yeah, and so I would suggest we defer this to our next meeting so that we have more, so that we give the applicant and everyone else a little more time to better understand this condition and what the impact is. And certainly, if this is something that you know that's going to come before us in the future, we want to understand what it is, and if it's going to be a condition, make sure we're clear on it. I think this is just a case of unfortunate timing for the applicant. But yeah, let's get all the facts.
Okay. Do we have a seconder for Glenn's motion to defer? Robert, again, you're moving that it be deferred. Okay. All in favor of deferring?
Aye.
Go ahead, Glenn. Did you?
Aye.
Okay. Okay. So that's deferred. Thank you. So we'll you'll get some more information, Jennifer, and it'll come back to us or whatever.
Okay, thank you very much. Yep, thanks.
Okay, that looks like our last application today. So the confirmation of the minutes of a regular meeting of July 15th, 2021. Do we have a mover and a seconder for those? Carol, Bill, all in favor? Thank you.
Aye. Yeah.
Any other business? I have one question. Are there any outstanding issues, applications that we haven't dealt with in the past? I think there's one on River Road or something, but is that the only one? Andrew?
Yeah, we have an application still active for 431 Holman Road.
Oh, Holman Road, okay.
Pending the comments from the conservation.
Okay. But that's the only one.
Let's see, I think everything else has been either completed or closed.
Okay, thank you. Any correspondence?
Sorry. I'm sorry, at Angenius Road now.
Okay, yeah, correspondence, any? No. Our next meeting is September 16th. And is anybody going to be away that we know of at this point? No, if not, let us know. Okay, if nothing else, then adjourn. Robert, thank you. Sue,
Well.
okay.